On the next slide, I have our very first question for the panel, which is what are some of the benefits and the challenges of a multi-generational workforce? I was going to throw it to Brian to talk first a little bit about the benefits. That sounds good.
Perfect. I think we're just at a unique point right now where we have 5 generations that are currently in the workforce. So it's a tremendous opportunity to learn from each other and a tremendous opportunity to apply that to business growth. So first and foremost, I think with any form of diversity, one of the benefits of it is you have a unique approach to problem solving. So with different backgrounds come different views, come different perspectives, an opportunity for everybody to learn from each other and apply knowledge from each other. So it helps you really kind of approach problem solving from a unique perspective where you're coming from a couple of different angles. When you're looking at bringing in multiple generations, you also bring in the different skill sets that come along with that. So it just, as with any diversity program, the whole idea of it is you're driving a lot of problem solving. You're taking a unique perspective to solving problems and approaching it from a new way. I think one of the personal and professional development things that really play off the most for companies and the individuals is it's the opportunity to have learning and mentoring opportunities. So the more people interact, the more they're going to learn from each other, the more they're going to understand each other's insights, and they're going to be able to apply those insights to their own work and to their own lives. They're gaining those perspectives, they're gaining those ideas. Junior employees have the opportunity to educate more mature employees on some of the current trends. Mature employees get the opportunity to mentor junior employees, pass on some of that life lessons that they've learned and accumulated over the years, help them with their career development. In my previous company, I had a gentleman named Gene that was just worked with us for years. He was one of my top SDRs, and he just kind of plateaued and reached a point of burnout. And one of the things we did was we had him start working with all of the new hires that were coming in. And just a really interesting dynamic started to shift. One, his personal enjoyment and his job satisfaction took off because he was getting a chance to pass on all of this knowledge that he'd gained over the years. And two, those new people coming in, those less experienced people, those younger people in some cases, they were having a mentor. They were having a chance really to kind of learn from him, really have him kind of pave the way for them. When he retired, he had tears in his eyes, basically just replaying that was one of the most fulfilling things he had a chance to do in his career, was the chance to work with all those people. And they all threw him a big party on the way out. And it really just kind of brings me to the next point as well, which is just an opportunity to build those meaningful and unique relationships. We're all looking for that in work. We're all looking to have people that we work with and respect and can learn from and evolve with. It adds to our personal satisfaction, but it also helps the company in terms of like retaining employees and just building a company culture that's just moving forward and solving problems and helping drive the business forward. So last, if you remove the emotional component of it, let's just face it, it's a larger talent pool to choose from because you've got a lot of people with a wide background, a lot of different skill sets that you can choose from. It really opens things up from a recruiting standpoint as well. So I think those are some of the benefits. Obviously, there's many, many more. Those are some of the benefits.
I love it. That's great. I love the story of Gene. That's super special. All right, so I'm going to share back the results of the poll before we dig into some of the challenges here. I'll share with what everyone in the audience is saying. So like I said, it looks like engaging and motivating is really the number one, with number two being keeping the experience consistent for all employees. So it looks like we also have some interest in hearing about retention and hiring and onboarding as well. So lots of challenges, lots of issues to tackle. Kelly, do you want to talk to us a little bit about some of the challenges that you see?
Yeah, for sure. I think when we look at, in the chat and in the results, there's so many challenges that come with this. And I love, Brian, all of the benefits you mentioned, but it is important to look at the challenges so we are aware of what's going on so that we can address it and reap all of these benefits. If I think about the kind of foundations of employee experience, there are things that people across different generations can look at differently. So flexibility, for example. There are a lot of people in Gen Z who have maybe never gone to an office and never want to go to an office. If they're on a team with older employees who have spent 90% of their work life going into an office and the pandemic working from home was just a brief blip and they want to get back to the office, how are you managing that? So a lot of companies that we're working with are trying to figure out hybrid and and making it work, especially when the executive and, more tenured and senior management levels wants everyone in the office, and Gen Z and millennials are wanting to stay home. That's been something that's been really pressing right now, as we're kind of coming out of the pandemic and creating the new normal. Another thing is feedback. So thinking about engaging and motivating. That was one thing a lot of people said on the poll. Feedback styles. Different generations. And again, and I always want to go back, and I think hopefully like the disclaimer that Richard gave at the beginning holds, we're making very broad generalizations and stereotypes, but in general, we see that different generations are looking for different things when it comes to feedback. Are you looking for a weekly one-on-one where your manager tells you all the great things you did and sandwiches it with, how you can do better? Or are you looking for the annual performance review? Is that what you're used to and expecting? And we see differences across generations with that expectation, and managers needing to be responsive to that. If you've got an employee who, for whatever reason, craves regular feedback, are you making sure that they're getting it? If you've got an employee who really wants something formal, wants a formal performance review, are you making sure that they're getting that experience and feeling like they're really being heard and seen, and getting the more formal type of feedback? Benefits are another thing. So a challenge is benefits. Looking at how are you going to attract talent when you have only a limited amount of financial resources to put towards attracting and retaining your employees? Are you going to use that on a 401k match? Older generations are more excited in general about having a 401k match and looking more towards retirement. Or are you going to put that towards, stocking the office with ping pong tables and kombucha on tap? That's going to attract a younger generation. So there's a lot of challenges, and it's really just about being mindful of how every part of the employee experience and candidate experience, which I think we'll get to later, but how every part of that can either attract or repel people from different generations, and just being mindful, is that happening in your workplace, and how can you address it?
Yeah, totally agree. One thing that's been on my mind a lot as a marketer recently is around employer brand, and how if you're trying to attract and retain employees across that span a whole, many different generations, the brand that you're putting out there, I know is exceptionally important to Gen Z and millennials who are really thinking about their personal brands a lot more. But it's going to matter across the generations. And it can be difficult, I think, to create an employer brand that is attractive across all. So I'm looking forward to diving in on that a little bit more too. Kelly, I did get some feedback in the chat that that some folks were having a little bit of a hard time hearing you, that your voice was a little bit softer. So just letting you know on there. I heard you okay. So just FYI. Cool. So was that it on challenges, or did you have anything else to add there, Kelly?
No, I mean, there's plenty of challenges, but we can move on.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, cool.
Kelly, can I throw out this one challenge that just came to mind?
Yeah,
please.
Sure, thank you. And so what I was thinking, before the pandemic, we had approximately 2 million boomers retiring every year. But since the pandemic, we had 3.2 million boomers retiring. And so the challenge is, what are you doing as an organization to either retain your boomers who basically just started retiring because they were tired of COVID? So I'm just throwing this out there to everyone listening. Well, how are you planning for the retirement of your boomers? And we don't need to answer that here, but that's a challenge.
Definitely something to be keeping in mind.